Better chance of making the Browns roster. Tristan Hill or Josh Gordon?
Tristan Hill.
Everybody's saying, who the hell's Tristan Hill?
Yeah.
Tristan Hill was drafted in the second round
Right.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The Cowboys gave up on him. He played some with the Cardinals last year, not a lot. I think the appeal on this guy is he was once upon a time a guy that most execs in the NFL felt could play and be a difference maker in the league. It's never happened, but now he's on the Cleveland Browns roster.
McNuggets, when you say he's an NFL Combine superstar, what does that mean? What measurables did he have?
A workout warrior.
He put up some crazy numbers at the Combine. He was a 3-star recruit. He actually only started one game his junior year at UCF. Was not looked at heading into the Combine as a guy who was going to blow people away. Opened a ton of eyes. He ran a great 40, broad jumped. I'll get his exact measurables if you want, but he was a workout warrior, skyrocketed up draft boards, and that's always the fear when you have a guy like that who wasn't crazy productive in college then works out great. Will it translate? So far, it hasn't for Hill, but maybe it turns around in Cleveland.
Anthony Schwartz ran a great 42.
I don't think it's fair to put Hill and Hurst in the same category.
No, Hurst has got more of a track record.
Hurst has been productive.
Yeah, Hill is not.
The last 2 years he's been hurt.
Yeah.
So he is a crapshoot because he hasn't played for 2 years.
Agreed.
But at least earlier in his career he was productive, where Hill has been a flop. Doesn't mean he can't turn it around.
Yeah.
But he has no quality production like Hurst does. Hurst has had some quality production earlier in his career. Not to mention, like, Hurst played on a really good team with really good players.
Yeah.
Like, there's something to be said for that.
I mean, they're bringing in bodies.
And again,
they're hoping to plug holes.
They're replacing guys who were nothing, who were zeros.
Yeah.
So even if Tristan Hill's a 1 and Hurst is a 3, well, that's better than the zeros they had. And those are the second and third moves at defensive tackle. They've brought in Tomlinson, who apparently is the number 1 free agent signing of the
You voted it too.
I did too.
The number 1 D tackle on the board.
All jokes aside, I think we all like the signing.
Yeah.
And he is a legitimate quality starting defensive tackle, something they haven't had in a few years.
So let's look at it. So right now, you have Myles Garrett at one defensive end. You have
on the other.
You have young OG at the other end. You now have Tomlinson. And
a battle for the fourth
and a
spot.
battle for the 4th spot.
And that's a hell of a lot better than we had last year.
There it is. You can throw Perrion Winfrey in there, Hurst.
If Hurst is healthy,
Hill.
I think he's got a good chance to be the guy.
So with that in a vacuum, you got Alex Wright and Isaiah Thomas to kind of platoon.
Right.
In a vacuum, that is a serviceable unit.
It's an upgrade from last year.
Absolutely.
Very.
Absolutely. And they still might get somebody else in the draft at some point.
Good.
I would think right now with that I never like to say, well, you got to take this position. But if I had to say at this moment, I think we'd all say probably wide receiver in the second round.
I think so.
Now, if they sign Mecole Hardman and trade for Brandon Cooks, well, we're thinking differently.
We think.
But as of today, the 2 biggest positions of need are wide receiver and linebacker.
Is that true, though? Like, if you think about it,
Yeah.
Taki is probably going to start the season on the IR.
Right.
Even if they sign Walker, he's going to start on the
Well, no,
IR.
linebacker's a position of need, too.
Yeah, I'm waffling a little bit.
I think that's certainly a position they could take in the second round also. But I think for this team, wide receiver is more important.
Are you comfortable drafting a linebacker and playing him, or drafting a receiver and playing him?
Ooh.
I mean,
Look, guys.
A lot of second-round receivers are good.
Right now we have no linebackers.
None, zero.
I mean, they've got to do something at linebacker.
Yeah, they have no sure starters at linebacker.
No,
None.
and that's terrifying because last year that flashing red light was on the defensive line, and guess what? Ended up really derailing the whole season.
Right.
So you better address it, and I think you better address it in free agency or trade because the draft is a crapshoot.
Right now,
when
the Browns.
When they brought in Mac Wilson and Taki in the same draft.
Right.
And threw them both out there, it was obvious right away, these guys aren't ready.
They can't, no.
And the fact, here's another thing that's unacceptable. The fact that the Browns are talking about Mac Wilson coming back.
Oh, please
he signed
don't.
somewhere else.
No, did he sign to stay in New England?
I think so. I
I'm
can't
glad.
remember where he
Wilson went
signed.
back to New England.
Yeah.
Okay,
he
thank
did.
you.
Which shocked me because
He was no good.
I was like,
Belichick's now been fooled by him twice.
Yeah.
So now, and the scary part is with the linebackers, all of them are coming off injury, and you don't know if they're going to be ready to even come play at OTA.
In my mind, though, listen, we still have there's still plenty of free agents out there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of high-level free agents left, but again, we've talked about this. The Browns, it's okay to bring in some Tier 2 and Tier 3 guys. You need that.
Yeah.
Right now, linebacker, they don't even have that. The Browns, in my mind now, and if I say there's 12 starters on defense because I include the nickel corner and then 3 linebackers.
Yeah, yep.
I think the Browns have 8 legitimate starters on defense. I think at all 5 spots in the secondary, 3 corners, 2 safety, they have legitimate starters.
Yep.
I'm not saying they're all great. I'm saying they're legitimate starting players.
Right.
I think they have 3 on the defensive line now with Miles, Obo, and Tomlinson. That's it. You need at least 2 legit starting linebackers,
Yes.
at least 2, and I think
Or
they
give me
probably
one standout.
Yeah, sure.
I've talked about this on the show before, but Tony Dungy always used to say he divided the defense into 4 layers. And the reason that he had so much success in Tampa was because he had a Hall of Fame caliber player. Think about how hard this is to do at each level. He had Warren Sapp up front. He had Derek Brooks on the back end, or I mean in the middle. He had Rondé Barber as a corner, and he had John Lynch as a safety.
Yeah, but that's almost impossible to do.
It is almost impossible,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is the fact that you would have 4 Hall of Famers on the same defense, 1 at each level, is mind-boggling.
Right.
If you're the Browns and you want to dumb that down, you need to have not just some guys, because we had some guys last year at defensive line and really at linebacker.
Right.
You need to have an impact player up front.
But there's
They
also
do.
there's
an
also
impact player at
Yes.
linebacker. They don't.
They don't.
And an impact player at corner and safety, which I think they do.
Certainly at corner they do. We'll see about safety.
We'll see.
I do think there's space between impact player and
Hall
just
of
a
Famer.
guy.
But there's also space between impact and Hall of Fame.
Sure. But like at linebacker, they may have to go with just find 2 starting caliber players. Like they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't have any starting caliber players.
Doesn't that feel like
at
last
linebacker.
year to you though? How we kept fooling ourselves saying,
Yeah.
they should be okay up front.
Yes.
They've got Clowney and they've got Garrett.
Yes.
But they weren't.
Right, but they didn't. But I think we acknowledged, maybe we underplayed how important it was, but we acknowledged that the Browns didn't have any short things at defensive tackle, at least being starters. So no, I'm not saying. I'm saying like there are linebackers out there who are starting NFL players. Like the Browns don't have any starting. Anthony Walker is a starting NFL linebacker. He got hurt.
When is he available?
He was the only one they had.
When will he be available?
I'm not sure. But he got hurt fairly early in the season.
It was really early.
I would think he'd be ready to go.
I would think he would be early or be ready early. JOK
is going to start.
Is there?
He's going to start.
I mean,
he's
got
start.
experience. I'm not for whatever that's worth. And then you've got to worry about
Bobby Wagner at this point is the only
Are you surprised he's still
player.
available?
Yeah, I am.
I was too.
Who's if you look at the PFF or ESPN, whatever, their top 100 free agents. Most of the top 50 guys are gone.
Yeah.
He's one of the few. He was really good still last year.
He's the number 1 rated player at his position.
I wonder if with him, he's looking for long-term deal that teams are not willing to do with an older linebacker.
Or maybe
that's what's held him up.
Or maybe he just he want to wait it out.
He might.
He might say,
You're
look,
right.
I don't want to go to camp. I don't want to go to none of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Could be.
He does,
But, I mean, if you're going to a new team, and it's one thing to if you're staying where you are, you know the system, you know the routine.
Yeah.
But if he's going to make a move and come to a new team, he needs to do it.
Well, the Rams cut him, so he's not going. They cut him.
They still could. They actually cut him, but they could re-sign him.
That's true. They could. They cut him for cap reasons.
I'd love to get him in here. I think if you said they brought back Anthony Walker and
huge.
Bobby Wagner, both.
Yeah, okay, I would like that.
Yeah,
It's 2 big names. Now they're at the end of their ropes.
Yeah.
But you'd
was the
have
other guy you said?
leadership. If they brought Anthony Walker back for a
Anthony
deal,
Walker. Yeah.
and they got Bobby Wagner, I feel comfortable. They already brought Taki back. They'll have JOK, who I think Schwartz will get together. Now you got a front where now I'm saying, okay, now I can count on something, because if they're playing at that higher level, and Anthony Walker was playing at a really good level, well, he got hurt. Now that changes the whole dynamic.
And we also have to think that
Right.
Schwartz is going to get more out of them.
Yeah.
Than
Yes.
Here's the thing. We did this last week when you were away, Jay. And we've talked about this a bunch of times. We did the perfect Browns offseason. Well, we're now a week later.
Yeah.
If you ask me, what's not including the draft, because But like right now, what else can what would be the best case scenario for the Browns? Free agency trades left.
Yeah.
I would say sign Bobby Wagner, trade for Brandon Cooks. We're good to go.
You've addressed all your needs.
If you did that, yeah, you still need one more linebacker. You still probably could use another defensive tackle.
And you've got to restructure some deals.
But for the most part, they don't need any other frontline players.
I'm good with that.
If they did that, I'd upgrade them to an A in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And now,
then you can't wait for July.
Now you talking about I need to see how this is going to work.
Yeah.
And John Watson, I need to see some 7-on-7.
That would be the perfect capper. Those two guys.
Well,
is it going to happen? I don't know.
It could.
I'd settle for one of the two. And then use the draft on the other.
Adam Thielen, OBJ, DJ Chark, McCole Hardman.
Yeah.
You can even go down further. Marvin Jones, Mac Hollins. These are names that you would think could make a difference here, could help make a difference.
I like DJ Chark. I like Chark.
He has upside. The one thing I'll say about Thielen, my initial reaction on Thielen for a week has been like, he's washed.
Right.
The one thing I'll say about Thielen, he's not a guy that's going to, like, his days of putting up 1,000 yards are over.
Yeah, he's not the old Adam Thielen.
As a third down / red zone target, he's still really good in those spots.
And who doesn't need one of those?
Right. Now, ideally, like if they got a Brandon Cooks and then signed an Adam Thielen, you can never have enough good receivers.
I don't even know if Cooks is still available because we kept hearing a lot about Cooks.
I haven't heard nothing.
Nothing.
I just think somebody was saying, TA was saying that it's a little complicated because of his contract, that might take some time for him to eventually be traded. I mean, he wants out of Houston. They're a bad team that's
that makes
starting
sense.
over.
We talked about that. We talked about this in our pregame, little warm-up conversation. The Jerry Jeudy thing never.
Yeah, I just don't buy it.
I don't understand where that came from because it doesn't make sense.
You know what that comes from? You live on a street and you've seen 3 of your neighbors put for sale signs in the front yard and they all got more than asking. And you weren't thinking about selling your house. You like your house. But you see what your neighbors are getting and saying,
like
whoa.
I like that.
I'm going to throw a for sale sign in there and put a ridiculous number on there and maybe I'll get a buyer.
And that's why
they're asking way too much.
And that's to your point. To your point, when somebody I don't know who suggested a 3rd and 6th round pick, I laughed at that.
Yeah.
Because first of all, like the Broncos, everybody thinks you can get a steal on a wide receiver because the Browns stole Amari Cooper, but we forget that all these now.
It's the Cleveland Guardians syndrome. The Guardians fleece everybody. They're like, fleece somebody again.
The Cowboys put themselves in a position where they felt they had to trade Cooper for cap reasons, and they screwed that up. The Broncos are not in a position that they have to trade Jerry Jeudy, so they're smart to say, we want a 1st-round pick.
Sure.
Even if you think they're overvaluing him, I'm not going to trade him unless I get high price.
It goes to this. Everybody has a price.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody.
But they're not trading him for a 3rd-round pick. What would be the point of that?
No point. No point whatsoever. And the thing on the Cooper thing, too, is that fit both teams' needs. Now, the Cowboys would still probably rather have a redo on that move.
Yeah.
But they were paying him more money than they could afford to pay him at that position. And
they had a younger guy who they wanted to be the number 1 receiver who needed to be
and
paid.
the Browns were like, well, we need an Amari Cooper, so we'll pay his salary and we'll give you a 3rd.
They were stupid because having Lamb and Cooper together was great.
It was.
The problem is they paid Michael Gallup, and he's nothing.
That was the miscalculation that they made. I want to go back to one thing that Darren said, and I never thought this before, but as he was making his point, I did. He explained, when you asked, well, why would they move on from a Thornhill? Why would they do that? He explained the mission statement of the organization, and it hit me. That sounds very familiar. He said, they draft really well.
They've been hitting lately.
They coach and develop really well. They let other teams pay generational money, except for when they see the one difference maker that they need, they went ahead and paid Mahomes. And I'm thinking, okay, Guardians, draft very well, develop and coach very well. They let other teams pay generational money to their guys.
And they still go to the
And
playoffs.
they picked their spot in Jose Ramirez as being the guy they're going to build everything around.
Yeah.
There are a lot of similarities, guys, between
Yeah.
what the Chiefs are doing and what the guard. I mean, I'd love to have a couple of World Series in the trophy case. But
Right.
Tyreek
as he was
Hill-
saying that, I go, wow, he's explaining the Guardians.
Tyreek Hill is their Lindor.
Right.
Like
They
Tyreek,
let him go.
They let him
Although
go.
they did
let
just
him go.
spend a ton of money on a guy they're going to play at right tackle from the Jaguars.
Because it's, again, we talk about this. There's 3 things you must do as a general manager. Find a quarterback, protect a quarterback, get
Yeah.
after a quarterback.
Although I'm surprised they're thinking about, Darren was saying they're thinking about moving him to right tackle, that they'd like to move, that they may trade for Tunsil and
I
move
was
him
surprised
to right
to hear
tackle.
that, too.
I'm like, you're paying that much money to a guy, and you're going to put him at right tackle?
I was surprised to
was a
hear
little
that. That's
crazy,
left
but
tackle money.
It's hard to question much, if not anything, of what the Chiefs do.
They've gotten
get it right.
They've gotten so good that you can't even. It's like when the Guardians. We used to get mad when they used to trade pitchers or people in
Yeah.
their prime, but everybody they get back in return turns out to either be an all-star or even looks better than them. It's a complete wash.
Look what they got from Lindor.
And now, fairness, CeCe
Without the
Sabathia
salary.
went and was a great player.
Well,
yes.
CeCe Sabathia was
Yeah.
a guy, they knew he was, I mean, they knew what he was. They
Right.
knew he was a Cy Young caliber
Yeah.
player.
And he wanted to stay. He told us he wanted to stay.
Now, that was a trade that the Indians got railed on. I
Yeah.
think, didn't they get Matt Laporta?
They traded him
did
to
get-
the Brewers, right?
They
it
did
was the
get
Brewers.
Michael Brantley. Didn't they get Brantley in that deal?
I don't think they did. I don't think Brantley came from the
I know
Brewers.
they got somebody in that deal. It
think
wasn't.
they did get
Laporta
Laporta.
was the main guy,
And he ended up
he
being
sucked.
nothing.
But I'm pretty sure they ended
Maybe
up
they
getting
did.
somebody in that deal
But
that
you know,
ended
like
up being
when you
good.
look at the deal they did with the Expos, when they
Great
got
deal.
when they got all of that talent, they're going to look back on the Frankie Lindor decision to let
Yeah.
him go.
Great trade.
Oh my God!
But
look
in
what they
recent
got.
years, he's the only guy they've traded that's a big money guy.
Well, they
like-
let pitchers at free agency walk. You know.
Well,
I mean, they traded Corey Kluber, and at the time, everybody wasn't sure what that was, but they got Clase for Kluber.
that was a brilliant trade.
Oh my God, it was
and until this,
unbelievable.
the first couple of years, Kluber did nothing. Last year, he's still at this point he's a decent pitcher, but not special.
And didn't they kind of trade high on Clevenger?
They traded Clevenger.
Yeah.
He's
And
been
he was-
nothing. Obviously, Bauer was still good, but there were other reasons
This
besides.
city, the Guardians don't get the credit they deserve. They just don't.
No, because
I mean,
had they won one World Series, it would be totally different.
It would be. I
because
couldn't
then
agree
you
more.
couldn't complain about the money because you'd be like,
But you know what? In Tito's 10 years here, they've probably played 30 games where they were out of contention. Think about
Oh,
that.
yeah, no.
Think
Yeah.
about that.
Yes.
They're in it. 6
Every
of those
year.
years they made the playoffs. That means every game they played that season was hinging on a playoff berth or not. In the other 4, they only had one that was sub 500. That was 80 and 82, and they were still in it in September.
They're kind of like the Steelers.
no.
They are like the Steelers.
Yeah.
They're always there. They're around it.
Let me get. I'm getting the Sabathia trade. I got to see this before we move on.
Yeah, I just thought
I
Matt
was right.
Laporta,
They got Brantley in that deal.
he was a Brewer.
Yep.
Okay, then you know what? I got to put that one in the win column too.
The trade was. Here was the trade: Sabathia to the Brewers for Matt Laporta, who was supposed to be the guy in the trade.
And he was
sucked.
never panned out.
Zach Jackson, not the one who's a writer for the Athletic. Rob Bryson, no, and a player to be named later.
And
Brantley was the player to be named
Oh,
later.
my
That's it. Now, obviously, Sabathia was better than Brantley
Yes.
comparatively, but Brantley was awesome here.
and by the way, CeCe moved on from the Brewers and eventually
He-
ended up in New York.
Right.
Now he did come back. He finished that season.
I think that was it, and then he
Was
went to
that
the Yankees.
it?
I
Well,
think that was it.
Then oh my
They
God!
made
And then
the
it was a
playoffs,
rental player.
yeah.
I thought he signed a 1 year, so he went right to the Yankees.
Went right to the Yankees,
It was
yeah.
a total rent a player, and
Yep.
the fact that we got Brantley out of that.
Oh yeah.
Never mind.
And they got Carrasco out of this the Cliff Lee deal.
Don't trade with the Guardians.
And I
man.
don't
do
think
God
Carrasco.
work.
Don't
Please.
trade with the Guardians.
And I
'cause
don't
you're
think
gonna get
Carrasco
whooped.
was the I can't remember who the big piece was supposed to be in that deal, but I don't think it was Carrasco. But Carrasco obviously ended
No,
up being
you know
excellent.
what? Was Andrew Miller? Who'd we send him to? St. Louis?
Cliff Lee, Philly.
Philly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember who else they got in the deal, but